Good morning my dear students, and welcome back to the class on English language. In the previous classes we had gone through the transformation of sentences using as soon as, no sooner than, hardly had, scarcely had been. I hope you are clear with those four topics. Today we are continuing the same topic, and today what we are going to learn is how to transform an affirmative into negative sentence. So that's what we are going to learn today. Transformation of affirmative into negative sentences. The first thing what you are going to learn is about the definition of affirmative sentence. What do you mean by affirmative sentence? It is defined as a positive statement. A positive statement is defined as affirmative sentence. For an example, Joe is here. It is a positive statement, so it comes under the category called affirmative sentence. Now let's see what do you mean by negative sentence. What is the definition of negative sentence? It is defined as something that is false. It means something that is not true. And how do you define, or how can you understand this is a negative sentence? The negative sentences will contain the words like no, not, or a negative word. When you find these words in a sentence, we can understand that this is a negative sentence. For example, Joe is not here. How do we understand this is a negative sentence? Because we have the presence of the word called not in the sentence. So that is known as negative sentence. Now we are going to see the rules to be kept in mind while changing an affirmative sentence into negative sentence. Total there are 12 rules to be learned. Today we will go through 3 rules. And what are those 3 rules? Rule number 1. When the affirmative sentence has only and alone, and if it refers to persons, we'll have to use none but in the negative sentence. If it refers to things, we'll have to use nothing but. If it refers to numbers, we'll have to use not more than or not less than. So rule number 1 will say, if the affirmative sentence contains only and alone, if it refers to persons, we'll have to use none but in the negative sentence. If it refers to things, we'll have to use nothing but. If it refers to number, we'll have to use not more than or not less than. Let's go through some examples so that you can understand the rule better. Only God can help us. If only God can help us, it is an affirmative sentence and it contains a word called only. So when there is only, what happens? We'll have to use the word called none but, because it refers to a person. So the answer will be none but God can help us. Second, he has only a ball. It is an affirmative sentence. It contains a word called only. It refers to a thing, so we'll have to use the word called nothing but. So how does it come? He has nothing but a ball. Third example, he has only 10 taka. Taka means it is rupees of Bangladesh. So it is an affirmative sentence. It contains a word called only and it refers to a number. So what happens? We'll have to use not more than or not less than. So the answer will be he has not more than 10 taka. I hope you are clear with the first example. Now moving on to second rule, rule number 2. When the affirmative sentence contains must or have to, we'll have to use the word. So what is rule number 2? When the affirmative sentence has got must or have to, it must have cannot but in the negative sentence. Let's go through some examples. We must obey our parents. It is an affirmative sentence and it contains a word called must. So what happens in the negative? There must be cannot but. We cannot but obey our parents. Second, you have to drink clean water. It is an affirmative sentence and it contains a word called have to. So what happens? We have to use cannot but in the negative sentence. You cannot but drink clean water. I hope you have understood the second rule. Now moving on to third rule. When the affirmative sentence contains and, both, we'll have to use not only but also in the negative sentence. That is rule number 3. When the affirmative sentence contains and, both, we'll have to use not only but also in the negative sentence. What's an example? He ate eggs and vegetables. It is an affirmative sentence and it contains a word called and. So what happens? We'll have to use not only but also in the negative sentence. He ate not only eggs but also vegetables. Second example, both Ram and Anuj were excited. Affirmative sentence contains a word called both and. So what happens? We'll have to use not only but also in the negative sentence. Not only Ram but also Anuj were excited. So these are the 3 rules that you need to understand. Before that, we have to understand what do you mean by affirmative sentence and what do you mean by negative sentence, and kindly go through these 3 rules once again and try to understand. And I hope you are studying well. Thank you.